With the iPhone 14 Pro Max and the iPhone 14 Plus existing now, why should you pick one over the other? You save a little bit of money if you go with the 14 Plus and you still get great battery life and a large display, but the Pro Max has some features of its own that it brings to the table. I'm Jason Cipriani. In this ZDNET video, I'm going to walk you through why you should pick the 14 Plus or why maybe spending the extra money on the 14 Pro Max makes the most sense. Alright, so Apple completely changed its normal script this year when it announced the iPhone 14 lineup. In the past couple of years, we've had like iPhone 12 mini or iPhone 13 mini, and then an iPhone 13 and a 13 Pro model that were the same size, and then there was the giant model in the Pro Max. So we had the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and this year, there is no iPhone 14 mini. It just does not exist. If you want a smaller display iPhone, something that's easily used with one hand or fits in your pocket, you're going to have to get the iPhone 13 mini, last year's iPhone 13 mini. So this year we have the iPhone 14, we have the iPhone 14 Plus, the 14 Pro, and the 14 Pro Max. It's all sounds like a word salad in jargon, but the two key takeaways here from that entire lineup is the 14 and the 14 Pro are the same exact size, 6.1 inch display. The 14 Plus and the 14 Pro Max are the same size with a 6.7 inch display. This is the first time Apple iPhone owners or potential owners have had the option of getting the larger display iPhone for under $1,000, and technically it's under $1,100. That's the starting price point of the 14 Pro Max. So at $899 for 128 gigabytes of storage, you can get the iPhone 14 Plus, and it's going to deliver the same size display as what you see on the 14 Pro Max, and it is going to deliver excellent battery life. I recently took it with me to travel to New York, multiple flight delays, multiple issues along the way. I was able to use it from about 3:30 in the morning until 4:30 p.m., so 13 hours before my battery anxiety kicked in, and I forced myself to just top off the battery for a little bit in order to make sure that I was able to get to my destination. But in reality, it was still like 30% left, and I was an hour outside of New York on my flight. I had to do Uber, and I would have been at the hotel and been okay. So I technically could have gone the whole day without charging it. But when you're traveling, there's a golden rule. It's an ABC rule. Always be charging. Remember that. So you're still getting good battery life with the 14 Plus at a discounted price. But why should you go with the 14 Plus? Is it anything you're missing out on? Or are there features you're not going to get because you didn't spend the extra $300, $200 to get the 14 Pro Max? And truth be told, yeah, there's a few features. So if you spend an extra couple $100 and get the Pro Max, you're getting a better display, subjectively and objectively a better display. There's a better refresh rate. You get the dynamic island, which for some, that's a huge deal. I want to love the dynamic island. I just don't see a whole lot going on there right now that makes me think this is an outstanding, excellent feature. Maybe live activities when iOS 16.1 launches will change my mind. Change my mind, Apple. Please. So you are getting a better display, but you're also getting an extra camera with the Pro Max. And that is, you get a telephoto lens, you get your main camera, and you also get your ultra-wide camera. On the iPhone 14, what you're getting is a main camera, 12 megapixel, and then you're also getting a 12 megapixel ultra-wide. You don't get a telephoto lens. And for me personally, I've found that to be like the missing feature when I'm taking photos. With any phone, if I can't zoom in optically, which is using a telephoto lens, and I have to rely on a digital zoom, which often results in grainy photos because you're just zooming in on the picture itself and capturing less detail, I'm not very happy with that photo taking process because I like the ability to zoom out, ultra wide, main, or take it a step further with the telephoto. So you're getting a huge upgrade, and I didn't even go into the megapixels of the Pro Max, but there's a lot going on there with the 48 megapixel main sensor on the 14 Pro Max and the quad pixel binding technology that they use to make some very crisp and clear pictures that come out of the Pro Max. It's a big camera upgrade. It is also a bigger display upgrade, and not bigger in size, but a more robust display upgrade. But is it worth $200, $300? For most people, I bet it's not. In fact, the display on the 14 Plus, in my testing over the last 10 days or so, I really haven't missed or noticed the variable refresh rate that the 14 Pro Max has. I've enjoyed not having the dynamic island break up the display and instead having the true depth sensor and Apple's notch sitting at the top of the iPhone out of the way. Battery life, like I said, has been great. The cameras, we'll put a couple up here right now. Even though I haven't had the option to zoom in, the cameras on the 14 Plus are tremendous. And Apple has used the same A15 Bionic processor in the 14 Plus as what was used in the iPhone 13 and 13 mini, rest in peace, with the exception that there's an extra GPU core in the iPhone 14's version of the A15 Bionic, which means better graphics, faster graphics, not better graphics, faster graphics, which you should see in gaming and other activities similar to that. But they've also enabled some new image signal processing and some new behind the scenes processing for taking photos with the iPhone 14 lineup. And it works. And there's a huge difference in the photo quality, in my opinion, from the 13 to the 14. I took a picture of a random brick building in Williamsburg as I was walking around testing cameras on the Pixel 7 Pro. That's why I was in New York. Was for the Made by Google event, as well as the 14 Plus. And there's a brick building with a bunch of NFTs. Yes, crypto NFTs. Painted some street art, painted all over it. And the contrast and saturation of those photos that I was able to capture with the 14 Plus, with the brick and the reds and the yellows and all the other colors, just tremendous. They look fantastic. I didn't have to think about it. I held up the camera, pressed the shutter button, and it captured it. There was no extra work, and the phone did all of it for me. Now, there's another photo of the plane, my plane coming into LaGuardia, and you could see the remnants of the Hurricane Ian, and the reason my flight was delayed in it. So it's a dark, dreary, gloomy photo, but the clouds are well representative. The water maybe isn't as real life as it should be. The bridge looks fantastic, and this is out of a plane that's coming into land. Again, I held it up, took a picture through the window of the airplane, and the picture looks great. I didn't do anything to it. It's not edited in any way, and I have no issues with it. So I guess the bottom line is this. When it comes down to whether or not you need the iPhone 14, or you should get the iPhone 14 Plus, or you should go with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, you have a couple choices to make here. Obviously, battery life and display are good. They're a given across both of these. The main thing is are you going to use the Pro features? Are you going to take advantage of the always-on display that the iPhone 14 Pro Max has? Some people are turning it off because they find it's annoying, and they think that their iPhone has been left on and the battery is draining while it sits on their desk. It's too distracting. I get it. I've used Android phones for years. I'm used to the always-on display. There was a learning curve here with the Pro Max, but I don't have any issues with it. Are you going to take advantage of what the camera has to offer? There are some fantastic camera features here. Again, the 48 megapixel main sensor, you have telephoto lens, 5x zoom, all this stuff that hasn't been possible on the iPhone camera system before is now in the Pro Max. So if you're really into photography, you're really into taking high quality video, the Pro Max is where it's at for you because it's so versatile and you have so many options. However, the 14 Plus is no slouch. Its camera takes great pictures. You still have the option to take high quality video. Both phones have action mode, which allows you to turn on a video recording mode. It's a special mode in the camera app, and run around, and it's stabilized video similar to what a GoPro could do. It's not as good. Be clear about that. but it's very good for a smartphone, and it's something that both phones have. So you're not really shorting yourself on the experience with iPhone 14 Plus, although you're saving yourself a few $100s depending on which storage amount you go with. And I think for most users, that's perfectly okay. The 14 Plus, I would imagine a year from now, will be a hit. It's taken some time for people to warm up to because of the delayed release, but this phone is a great phone. And in my review of the iPhone 14, I talked about people who have an iPhone 13 or possibly even an iPhone 12 do not need to upgrade to the iPhone 14. They don't need to rush out and buy Apple's latest and greatest, because the differences on paper and experience between the 14, 13, and the 12 were very minimal. However, there's an exception, and that exception is the iPhone 14 Plus. It is the exception to whether or not you should upgrade if you have an iPhone in the last couple of years, and it comes down to more affordable battery life and more affordable, larger display. You're not spending $1,200 for a Pro Max when you're never going to use those features. All right, hopefully that helped you out. Hopefully you're able to make a decision based off of this video on whether or not you should get the 14 Plus or Pro Max. It all comes down to camera and display, really. I'm Jason Cipriani. Thanks for watching this ZDNet video. Make sure to check out more tech news as well as tech tips at ZDNet.com.